Ever shut
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? Not an LP show. Man, my hair is always so messy when I come down here. Not an LP show tonight. We are continuing in the lawsuit of the Macrons, the first couple of France, against Candace Owens, her LLC, and her corporation. It's been a while since I've covered this because, as you may know, you can look at the docket, which is a listing of the court action of all the activities in the case in Delaware, but there isn't an easy way to publicly view the documents. And all the ones I had looked at before were made available by her attorneys or other news organizations. I've since found out you can, as a member of the public, get an account with the Delaware e-filing service. However, it is pricey to get documents. I am so spoiled by, like, when I used to live in Florida, you could get those things for free. And even here in Colorado, you couldn't get it right online by paying, but you could write to the clerk of the court of whatever court it was. And it was a much more reasonable fee than this was. So I'll only be getting the major pleadings unless some other show, some other YouTube show or people, I've kept a copy of these filings, wants to shoot me a super chat or a super thanks and share in the cost of getting these, then I'm more than glad to share them. You have to, let me tell you what the costs are. They're crazy. So I've also figured out, at least it seems this way, wait till there's a few documents you want to get, because they charge you $20 just to view the docket to see the items you want to get. Whereas you can view the docket for free. Maybe I just haven't figured out all the ins and outs yet as a member of the public, but it doesn't show you the links to get documents. To do that, you got to pay $20, and then you got to pay like 20-something bucks for the document itself. So if you're enjoying learning the minutiae of this case, share some love with me. First, subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I also would love it if you'd consider becoming one of my patrons at patreon.com/pinkflameofliberty. There is some exclusive content there, but if you're just like into the Candace Owens stuff and not necessarily the libertarian political stuff, shoot me a super thanks or a super chat. I'd really appreciate it. So let's get right to it. So as you may recall, let's back up a bit. The Macrons sued Candace Owens, her LLC, and her corporation, both of which do have registered agents in Wilmington, Delaware. I did a video on that because Candace outright lied about that. And it was like a 210-page complaint. Again, I covered that. Basically a defamation claim, but they broke out each of the defamatory statements into separate counts. And also in Delaware, you can sue for false light. False light isn't a cause of action in every state. Then apparently they wanted to add to it. I did a show on that as well. And there was a first amended complaint. And despite Candace Owens bragging that she'd never moved to dismiss this lawsuit, what did Candace Owens do? Of course, she moved to dismiss the lawsuit. And this now, so you got Candace filed a motion to dismiss. This is the Macrons' response to her motion to dismiss. What comes next? Sorry that this gets a bit convoluted to those who don't work in law. So you have the motion, you have a response, then she gets to reply to the response. And the page limits for each of these get less and less, or word counts. I think in Delaware it's word counts. If I saw on the docket, her reply is going to be limited to 7,500 words. I'm not sure how many pages that works out to. Like in Colorado, they do it by page count instead, and you can't cheat and do single spacing, whatever. Courts also like have a minimum font size, minimum spacing, minimum margins, so you can't play those kinds of games. So we're going to get right now into the Macrons' opposition to her motion to dismiss. I'm sorry, there is a little bit more backtrack I need to do. The motion to dismiss, well, they're going to get into it. It was procedural grounds. If you're going to do it on more substantive grounds, well, it'd be kind of procedural as well, but it wasn't a motion for summary judgment. Usually with a motion to dismiss, you can cure, if you win a motion to dismiss, the other side can cure the defects and refile, generally speaking. If it's like on something like statute of limitations, you can't, because, I mean, you can't change time. Okay, so plaintiff's opposition to defendant's motion to dismiss. I will note that the Macrons managed to spell the name of Candace's attorneys, at least one of them's first name right, unlike her attorneys who misspelled Michael on every pleading so far. I did write them. We'll see if they correct that. They're getting paid a lot of money. There's no way. I mean, this attorney's probably in it for $500,000 now, and I'm not begrudging them that. This is a high-profile case. The complaint was several hundred pages long. I mean, that's a lot of work, but it was just ironic that I didn't really find any errors till I got to the signature block and saw that Michael was misspelled. Okay, so the first part of it, it's what is called a table of authority. It's kind of like an index. Well, it is a table of contents. So it gives you the outline of the brief, but then it goes into a table of authorities. And what a table of authorities is the cases that had been cited. So you could see there's one, and there's a lot on there. 1, 2, 3. There are 6 pages of authorities. That's quite a bit. Okay. And again, I highlight what I want to cover. This response isn't that long. It's going to be more heavy in the beginning, and then the rest will skim through. But I think this is a banger of a response. But then again, I've made no, putting aside any, we can argue over libertarian principles of defamation or any of that. Doesn't matter. We're dealing with the court case as it exists, and in the court case as it exists, because she is just a ghoulish grifter. I'm rooting for the Macrons on this one. I've never made any bones about that. Okay, I love how they started this response brief. And those of you who've never written, which I have, responses, of course, under the supervision of an attorney, unless I was pro se, because I'm not an attorney. I love the way it started. It started with a quote from Candace from July 23rd, 2025. And it says, "We'll get to the bottom of it, right?" She's talking about this case. "That is what discovery is for. We're going to ask a lot of questions. The Macrons are probably hoping, oh, you know, this will go away. At least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file to get this dismissed. But I'd like to make it to discovery. I think we owe that to the world." So it started with a quote from Candace. Now I want to read the opening 2 paragraphs written by the Macrons' attorneys. "Like the defamatory statements within the amended complaint, the words above are lies." Usually, when you're writing something to the court, you don't come right out and, I mean, they were lies, but you usually say something are inaccurate or not true. I mean, it means lie is such a in-your-face word, but okay, I mean, they're going for it. "Owens publicly vowed that she welcomed discovery and would not seek dismissal. Yet, defendants now ask this court to do exactly what Owens told her audience she would never attempt: end the case before discovery even begins. For nearly 2 years, defendants," and it says plural because it's Candace and her LLC and her corporation, "have promoted fabricated claims about plaintiffs President Emmanuel Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron." And note this next sentence. Remember, if you're a Candy watcher, you'll know that she said that the Macrons never sued her for claiming that Brigitte Macron was born a man, and she says the reason why the Macrons never sued her over that is because it's true. But the fact is, the Macrons did in fact sue her over that. That's just another lie by Candace, but right here. So defendants have promoted fabricated claims, including that Mrs. Macron was born a man, exactly what Candace denies is part of this suit, but it is, that the couple engages in incest, and that they participated in mind control experiments. They continued spreading these lies even after plaintiffs provided evidence disproving them, to which Owens responded by taunting the Macrons and inviting them to file this lawsuit. Candace, FAFO. Since then, defendants have again expanded their claims, most recently alleging that the Macrons were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination and planned and financed Owens' assassination from the French-run hub of Wilmington, Delaware. Candace is a lawyer's worst nightmare for her client because she just can't shut up, and she is just piling on. Like, just zip it, lady. So the first grounds for dismissal was that it was filed in the wrong place. It shouldn't have been filed in Delaware. She actually argues it should have been filed in France, or alternatively Tennessee, because Candace doesn't have, that the Delaware courts don't have jurisdiction over Candace, and there isn't minimum contacts to give Delaware courts jurisdiction, even though her registered agents, the registered agents for her LLC and her corporation are in Delaware, and despite her absolutely denying that they were in Wilmington, Delaware, and that other video, I showed you the Delaware Secretary of State's webpage where her registered agents are in fact in the French-run Wilmington. Says their only argument is that Owens supposedly lacks minimum contacts with Delaware, even though she deliberately formed and manages her businesses under Delaware law, conducts and monetizes her business through those entities, disseminated the defamatory statements into the state, and committed her tortious conduct through the Delaware businesses she controls. I'm just sorry, something came up on my screen. Since filing her motion to dismiss, Owens has only strengthened her Delaware ties, and this is another FAFO, by introducing new factual allegations in her podcast about purportedly relevant events in Wilmington and directing those claims to a Delaware audience. She was asking for her little conspiratorial minions to run around Delaware looking for stuff. So she's only increased her contacts with Delaware. That was so dumb. Second, the amended complaint, which added factual detail but no new causes of action, as we noted in a prior show, was properly filed under, and it gives a superior court rule. They're arguing about whether the First Amendment to the complaint was permissive or not, whether the Macrons needed to request permission to file a First Amendment complaint. I don't know the court rules in Delaware, but in general, you can file a First Amended complaint without court permission if it's filed before a responsive pleading is filed. I don't remember the timing of it, but in any event, she's arguing that it wasn't filed properly, but that's like saying an I wasn't dotted. It's easily cured. I see. They're saying they needed leave because Owens is saying they needed leave because new elements were added. So she said they assert that plaintiffs needed leave because the amended complaint references additional statements Owens made after the original filing. But those allegations relate back to defendant's pre-suit actual malice. And even if rule blah, blah, blah applied, which it does not, the remedy would be granting leave to refile, not dismissal. Third, all the claims are timely. Defendants contend that Delaware's borrowing statute imports the French statute of limitations period and bars the action. In France, it's insanely short. It's 3 months, I think. But the borrowing statute applies only when a plaintiff sues on a foreign cause of action and files in Delaware for no reason other than procedural advantage. This is not the case. The Macrons assert U.S. defamation claims against an American podcaster who created and published defamatory statements targeting a Delaware audience. Even if the borrowing statute applied, it does not. It would point to Tennessee's statute of limitations, under which the claims are also timely, not France's. And then her last argument was that Delaware is just too inconvenient for her. So it's called forum's non-convenience. It's you can do that if you think someone's like forum shopping and they purposely choose a court that may have jurisdiction, but it's just completely inconvenient for you and seems to be done just for that purpose. So finally, defendant's forum non-convenience argument is both inconsistent and baseless. Defendants insist that Delaware, where Owens chose to organize her businesses and only 3 states away from her Tennessee residence, it's too inconvenient, and that Tennessee would be preferable, while simultaneously arguing that the Macrons should have filed in France, as if that's somehow more convenient. Here's another thing. It's under the relevant factual background. Remember, Candace outright denied that the Macrons are suing her over her claim that Brigitte Macron was born a man. So it talks about the relevant factual backgrounds, and it says the Macrons sent 2 detailed retraction demands documenting the truth. Mrs. Macron was born a woman. And it goes on. I just want to say that keeps coming up, even though Candace outright lied and said that wasn't part of the case. It says Owens began litigating publicly the moment she was served. That same day, she publicized her eagerness to depose the Macrons and obtain their documents and communications. She repeatedly told her audience that she was looking forward to the litigation, that she wanted this case to go all the way, and that she did not want to have this case dismissed. She again assured her viewers, "You can put me under oath. I will testify." But then she moved to dismiss it. Yet another lie. Wake up, people. She recently told listeners that the Macrons were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination and used an aircraft hangar in Wilmington to carry out the same. Now, what's interesting here, and I just couldn't justify spending the additional funds without viewer contribution. If you want to see this, I'll get it, but I need some assistance. There was an affidavit filed with this response. I don't know the name of the full person who filed the affidavit because it's abbreviated here as Humphrey Affidavit. It is referenced over a dozen times. If I'm just going by memory, maybe even more than that here. I would love to see this Humphrey Affidavit, but I just couldn't justify spending another $20. So that's it says see Humphrey Affidavit, paragraph 4. She claimed Kirk's assassination was orchestrated to distract Owens from exposing the plaintiffs, and bizarrely, and this is hilarious, even implicated her own Delaware attorney's physical office space in the assassination plot, which she did, which is barking moonbat. Okay, let's see here. And it says, you know, if the court finds her motion persuasive that perhaps she doesn't have sufficient contacts with Delaware, they're asking for the court to give leave for the Macrons to serve jurisdictional discovery to uncover additional facts demonstrating Owens' contacts with Delaware. And the rest of this is really dry procedure. So I just want to go over the juicy parts. It says Owens had admitted in legal filings that Owens LLC is a pass-through entity that is named after Owens and solely controlled and managed by her. So it's basically her alter ego. I don't mean that in a dismissive way. That's actually a legal term where where a business is someone's alter ego, or a person is an alter ego of a business. Either way it can go. Says Owens only claims only that she has not taken any action targeting or seeking to serve the Delaware market. Well, she certainly can't say that now. And that she does not conduct business in Delaware. The court, and there was an affidavit of Candace Owens, by the way, attached to her motion to dismiss. That's another thing I would love to see. The court need not credit these conclusory statements, especially when weighed against plaintiffs' well-pleaded allegations. Shouldn't be well-pled. I think that's always been an argument. I would say well-pled allegations. And Owens's own claims and public court findings. Now, I'm going to maybe try to find this. Oh, I think this is just, never mind. I thought this was a case of hers, but it's just citing certain case in support. Never mind. Notably, Owens did not swear that she does not have a Delaware-based audience, that her website and social media pages are not visible in Delaware, or that she does not receive revenue from Delaware residences. She engages in a persistent course of conduct in Delaware. Now, this is what's interesting. By contracting with Meta, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon through her business entities, all of which are Delaware entities. I didn't know all of those were Delaware entities that operate extensively in the state. Now, I didn't know that Owens had previously sued as a plaintiff in a different defamation case. I want to find this. I haven't seen it's mentioned in the Humphrey affidavit, which again I'd love to see, because it says Owens also invoked Delaware's legal system when it suited her in the past, including by asserting defamation claims under Delaware law. That is allegedly detailed out in this Humphrey's affidavit again, which I'd love to see. So it's talking about alter egos here, like in the definition used in this court. It says plaintiffs can satisfy the long-arm statute by showing that an individual is the alter ego of a Delaware entity with sufficient contact with the state. This is appropriate where the plaintiff has shown that the corporation has no independent reason for existence and that its sole purpose is to provide a means for doing the act and bidding of the individual, which certainly does seem to be the case here. And also, they're invoking that American courts will favor the outcome that provides the most due process. So it says when an entity intentionally reaches beyond its boundaries to conduct business with foreign residents, the exercise of specific jurisdiction is proper. Different results should not be reached simply because business is conducted over the internet. That is not the quote I was looking for, but let me see if I can find it. Yes, it says, it cites a case, it says, holds that jurisdiction over one who forms a Delaware entity comports with constitutional due process. And they point out, even if there's not jurisdiction against Candace Owens personally, there certainly is against her two entities, and dismissing her individually from this lawsuit would require the plaintiffs to refile identical claims against her personally in another forum, most likely Tennessee, while this identical case proceeds here against the LLC and the corporation. Man, I would love to see this Humphrey affidavit. It's got exhibits attached to it, because here it references Exhibit H to the Humphreys affidavit. I'd love to see that, but I wanted to see the legal arguments. Says jurisdiction comports with due process where a defendant purposely avails itself of the privilege of conducting activities within the forum state and where the defendant should reasonably expect to answer for wrongdoing in that forum. And it says Owens published her statements to Delaware residents through Delaware entities, and she has affirmed the affiliation between her defamatory claims in Delaware by describing purported evidence of plaintiff's wrongdoing, not only in Delaware, but at her own attorney's office. Ouch. That's a banger line right there. There's just no way around it. That's a banger line. Even if there was no prior affiliation between Delaware and the underlying controversy, there was. Owens has created one through her own words. Oh my goodness. That's really good. Then says, dealing with her state of mind, which has to deal with the burden of proof. Owens consistently spoke about her state of mind at the time she made the defamatory statements. She has stated that she said what she meant with respect to them, reiterated that she was telling the truth when she made them, despite the Macrons' claims to the contrary, admitted that she was having fun doing bad things, and continued to showcase her hatred for the plaintiffs. Owens' persistent repetition of the claims at the center of this lawsuit is indicative of her state of mind that she acted with actual malice at the time of publication. Plaintiffs properly raised additional facts. Okay. Let's see. And there might not, there were a few other things I highlighted, but they seem to be repetitive. Oh, defendant cannot have it both ways. They cannot claim that litigating in Delaware is prohibitively difficult and that it would have been favorable to litigate defamation claims made in the United States by an American podcaster with companies headquartered in Delaware and who hosts her podcast from her Tennessee home in another country. Defendants simply do not want to be held accountable, even in the most practical forum for Owens, and they put it in quotes, journalism. And it does mention that Tennessee does have a shorter statute of limitations than Delaware. Delaware is 2 years. Tennessee, it's 1 year. Oh, this is the quote I was looking for before. U.S. courts have a long history of refusing to apply a foreign country's law in the context of speech-based claims where, as here, the foreign jurisdiction does not have legal protections that are comparable to the First Amendment. And then basically says if Delaware is not the right court, then Tennessee would be. Okay, let me see if we have anything else. Yes, we do. Okay. Defendants contend that the relative ease of access to proof favors dismissal because virtually all relevant evidence is located in foreign jurisdictions, thousands or at least hundreds of miles away. Defendants ignore that 2 of the defendants are organized under the state law, that Owens is in control of those entities, and that plaintiffs seek discovery, including publication metrics from third parties organized under Delaware law, such as YouTube and Meta. Owens has clearly stated she intends to serve non-party discovery on individuals who do not reside in Tennessee, including President Trump. Therefore, litigating in Tennessee will not reduce the need for interstate discovery because she can't keep her mouth shut. Okay, let's see here. There were some legal arguments that probably won't be that interesting to the general audience. Okay. All right. So I thought that was pretty juicy. Their attorneys, they did a good job. One thing I personally wouldn't do, because I think the judges find it annoying, is when you say, even if so-and-so is true, parentheses, it is not, or it does not, you can get away with that once in a pleading, but I think they do it four times in here? They do it multiple times in here. So, if you want to help me get that Humphreys affidavit, that seems like it would be juicy, but that's all I have for you today. I'll keep you posted, even if I don't get all of the pleadings. I think her reply, if I remember correctly, is due January 6th or January 9th. It's somewhere in the beginning of January. And I'll probably get that one. I don't know. That's going to the cost is prohibitive. So maybe her attorneys will post it. I think I'm going to write her attorneys and ask that they post everything online, that people are interested in talking about this case. And we would love to just be able to see the documents, because they have posted some of them online. They might not think everyone's interested in these more of the legal back and forth rather than just the major items, but I certainly am. Okay, y'all, I think I'm going to do a show tomorrow. It might be a pre-recorded episode, though. I've got something on Doug Wilson, so getting back on my Christian nationalism rants, but that will be it for this evening, and I hope you have an awesome night. I'm looking for my closing screen. I stuck the thing way over here. All right, bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to